Hi, welcome back. Today we're talking about TrackMan, how to use the data that you get for your benefit and how to keep developing using it. So I got this TrackMan report from TrackMan's Facebook, and so this is not mine, but we're going to use it today to learn what these things are and how to read some of these things, how to make sense of all of these numbers, and make it a little less complex. So up in the top left corner, you have the name. If you have a team, this can be switched guy to guy. So each guy has their own profile, so you can track what their pitches are over time. Down the left side, it says pitches, just under the name. And this is going to track the number of pitches all throughout your bullpen or that session, and it'll group them. So you'll be able to see what you're like day to day and compare pitches from 2 weeks ago versus today, or future bullpens. Moving down further from that, you'll see a strike zone with a bunch of dots. This is tracking the pitch locations throughout the entire bullpen. So every pitch will be represented by an individual dot, and then the pitches are going to change colors depending on the pitch type. So in this case, it looks like the black dots are four-seam fastballs and the pink dots are sinkers. You might get a blue dot for a changeup or a green dot for a curveball, and different on and on. So different colors for different pitches, and then you get to see the locations. Moving over to the right side, we have the velocity, which is 93.1 miles per hour. The spin rate, which we talked about in the last video, is 1644 RPM. And then the tilt is the axis at which the ball is spinning on, which is also represented by this ball looking thing over here with this pink stripe on it. So the tilt is, it would be 1230, 030, which is why it's almost straight up and down, because you're looking at it like it's on a clock. So 12 o'clock is perfectly straight up. So 30 minutes off of that, and that's how you get that axis in that pink line that's straight up and down. And then if you notice on the pink line, there are arrows. So that's telling you the direction the ball is spinning, whether it's backwards or forwards. Backwards would be your fastballs. Forwards are going to be your curveballs, or on the exact opposite. Moving straight up from that, we get into another chart, and it says vertical movement and horizontal movement, and another lots of dots, another chart of dots that have black and pink spots. So this is going to be your movement profile of how the ball is moving. So like I said before, the black are the four seams, the pink are the two seams, and we get to see how the movement profiles are similar or different. So this guy's, both of his fastballs are very similar because they're all kind of clustered together, and he's a little bit inconsistent because we get some of these dots that are further away from the general cluster. So what we would be looking for in a very perfect world would be that the four seams, the black dots, would be higher on the chart because we want a better vertical movement profile than the pink dots. So we want the black dots to be in a cluster, we want the pink dots to be in a cluster, and we want to be them separate. Okay, so now that we know what each of these numbers are, let's get into how to evaluate it and kind of figure out what might be good, what might be bad, and how we're going to use this to help our development, rather than just have all these numbers, not know what they mean, and just keep throwing what you've been throwing. So the first thing that really stands out to me is it's classified as a sinker. And I see that over on the right side. And so this last pitch was a sinker. It's identified as pink. The location on the bottom left grid has that extra, I don't know, pink thing around it. Kind of looks like a bullseye a little bit. We know this pitch is a sinker, and the velocity is really good. I like the 93.1. The spin is really low, which is also typical of a sinker. The tilt is typically high for a sinker. So one of the things that we would try to work on is to lower that tilt axis down into the 132. 3 is going to be super extreme, but we want that to be lower to help with the sink. Another thing I know that this isn't the best pitch ever is it's classified as a sinker and it has 15.6 inches of vertical break, which is very, very high for a sinker. And it's also in what we classify as the dead zone inches. So those inches are anywhere from about 12 to 16 inches of vertical break is kind of this dead zone. So what the dead zone means is that the pitch looks like a lot of other pitches that the hitters see. So it's this dead zone where it's easy for them to hit. The movement isn't difficult for them to hit. It's not hard for them to identify. So those pitches get hit a lot harder, a lot more often. So that is classified as a dead zone. So this would be a dead zone fastball, and it's a sinker. We want sinkers to be under 10 inches to be truly sinking, and that tilt axis that I mentioned before should help with that initially out of the gate. The other big characteristic of sinkers are they typically have a lot of horizontal movement or arm side run. So in this case, he only has 4.6 inches of horizontal movement, which is really not good at all. It's a very, very straight fastball. So this guy has a fastball that is in the dead zone vertically and it's not moving horizontally. So it basically looks kind of like a lazy pitching machine or a slow pitching machine that's just kind of lobbing the ball in. This is kind of a BP pitch, batting practice pitch. So these numbers are not producing a good quality pitch movement. So vertical movement and horizontal movement are based on a ball that spins gyroscopically in space. So if you were out on in outer space on a spaceship and you threw a ball, that is where the 0-0 mark is. So that's also used as the reference point. So the 15.6 inches of vertical movement is the up and down difference from that ball that was thrown in space. The same is true for the horizontal movement. So you take that same ball that is in space, it's not affected by gravity or wind or anything like that, and you take that point and measure it side to side and you get your horizontal movement. So in this case, it's only 4.6 inches away from that ball that's spinning in space. Ideally, for a sinker, we want it to be 15 inches plus for this to be a good, effective pitch. Now, keep in mind, all of these numbers need to look different for each pitch that you throw. So, for example, he's throwing a four-seam fastball as well, represented by the black dots. So, if he's throwing that four-seam fastball, I would want the vertical movement to be higher. So I want it to be in the 17, 18, 19, 20 would be ridiculous range in inches. And the horizontal movement doesn't matter as much for that four-seam. So the 4.6 would be perfectly fine for a four-seam fastball if it had 18 inches plus in vertical inches. So that would be a very elite fastball at 93 miles an hour. That would be a very, very good pitch. Other pitches are going to have negative movements, and that just means that it's moving left, to the left side. So for a right-hand pitcher, your curveballs, sliders are going to have negative movements. For example, a curveball is typically in the negative 10 inches range, and that's a very good vertical movement profile. So if you don't have a TrackMan, like, these numbers won't make any sense to you, or you won't be able to use any of this. But I'll tell you how these numbers are going to look towards your eyes, so you can use the eye test to kind of get a similar result to what these numbers might be telling you. So what these things will look like to your eyes are, if it's 15 inches of vertical break, it's going to look a little bit more straight. It's not going to have a crazy amount of jump, and it's not going to sink. It's just going to be that flat ball that, you know, you're almost warming up to play catch with, or that you see in batting practice. So it's going to be straight to your eyes. So 4.6 inches of horizontal movement is going to be not very much. So this ball is going to be very, very straight. If it was closer to 20 inches, let's go the extreme on the other side. If the ball is running 12 inches side to side, then that ball is going to start at, if I'm a right-handed pitcher throwing a ball 20 inches of horizontal run, then that ball is going to start at the catcher's right kneecap, and it's going to run all the way back on the inside black to a right-handed hitter. It's going to move that much. And think in relation to home plate is 18 inches. So if we have a ball that's moving 20 inches, it's moving more than the entire width of home plate. So keep that in mind when you're designing these nasty pitches. So how the tilt looks in space. So the ball is straight up and down right now at 12 o'clock. In this example, we have a 12-30 axis. So that ball is just barely tilted, and it's going to spin on that barely tilted axis. Pair what you can with what you have. So everyone's got a cell phone. Most of them have slow-mo video. Slow-mo video from behind, you'll get the axis. And then from there, you know how the ball is spinning, and you can use your eyes to see how much or how little the ball is moving, and then keep making adjustments from there. All this fancy equipment does is make it a little bit more objective, but your eyes and a camera will be perfectly sufficient. One more tip, do your homework. So understand what other pitches are supposed to look like. So go on YouTube and go to your favorite big league guy and see what their ball does. Does it jump a lot? Does it sink a lot? Does it have crazy horizontal movement? Does it look like a frisbee? Go look and observe all of those things, and then try to do that in your bullpen. And you can use these numbers, you can use your eyes, but the idea is to make the pitches nasty. If you're missing barrels, you're doing something right. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you learned a lot on the TrackMan, how to read it. Please comment below with any questions that you have. I will answer them, and we'll start this discussion on how to make your pitches better, how to use this data, how to use your eyes, what to be looking for, all those great things to help your pitches keep getting better. Strike out a lot, guys.